Hello, Dad. It's Friday evening. Just getting ready to go back in. Spend an hour or so out here, power hour, so to speak, for dinner. I took this big patch panel that I created, and I cut it in half just so I can be a little bit more manageable. And I traced out where the ribs need to go for to match this side of the wheel tub. So I've sort of lined that out, and so this sort of is just the start of my figuring out how to put the ribs in here. So I'm going to use a bead roller to do that. Here's just a couple of practice pieces where I've done that on just a piece of scrap metal. This one comes up and this one goes down. I'm not sure if you can tell the difference on the camera. When it happens is when you run this through the bead roller, you get a pretty serious stretch. You get a pretty serious stretch of the metal. And it's not a uniform shape, so what ends up happening is the whole panel starts to twist and deform. So the way to avoid that is to do a so-called pre-stretch. So here's my line, and essentially what you do is you put it in the English wheel, and there's an anvil down there with a little bit of a curve. It's not a big curvature on it, but basically you put some pressure on that and you just start to stretch it and stretch it and stretch it and stretch it along the lines that you're going to use the bead roller on. So, for example, on this piece here, I rolled along this line here and I stretched it, and you can actually feel it. The metal goes this way, and as soon as you get to that stretch part, it bumps up because there's too much metal surface area at that position. So you stretch it first, and then you flip it over and run your bead, and then the metal is pre-stretched, and so it's easier to stretch. And so by getting a little bit more of a controlled stretch on this, you get a better ridge. And so the metal doesn't buckle as much, and you can actually just use a hammer and dolly, and where it does deform, you can actually do a pretty good job of flattening that out and taking out those ridges. So that's the plan. Anyways, I'll do that tomorrow. So first thing first in the morning, I will be just sort of running the wheel up and down here along these lines, and then I'll stretch that will give them a good stretch, and then I will run the bead roller to do that lift. And the lift is about, near as I can tell, somewhere between 4 and 5 millimeters. Maybe closer to 4 will be what I'm aiming for, and that's good enough for what I need. I don't need to make it absolutely perfect. I just want to add some strength to it, and at least from a cursory view down the spare tire tub, have it look okay, look decent. So it's a relatively thick. It's a 16 gauge piece, or 16 or 18. I don't quite remember anymore. So there's a pretty good stretch that needs to happen here. You put a fair amount of pressure on it to do that. So that's the theory. We'll see how well it works. This curvature here will give it some strength. So the combination of these, of the ridges that are created, this turn that's along this arc here, will make this a pretty strong panel. I'm hoping that I'm not going to distort it too much so that I have problems actually fitting it. But we just have to wait and see. So that's the reason why I'm doing this pre-shrinking, so that it doesn't buckle and turn into a potato chip. Makes it a lot harder to fit into to the existing hole. Happy Saturday morning, Dad. And this is my cheap $100 eBay English wheel. It's a piece of crap, but it actually, after you shimmed it up and messed around, I got various shims in here and shims down in here. It's so wobbly but it's a well-known weak point in this particular setup. But for this, it seems like it does the job. So I've got a fairly, right, if I show you, maybe down there, you can just barely see it right there. You can see there's a crown on that wheel. It's actually not much of a gap anymore now that it's been bent. But you can see here, you put in this is dead flat everywhere else. It was dead flat before I started, but that now I've pre-stretched along that line. I'll do a little bit more, and then I'll move along and do all these other ones before I do any of the tipping on it. So for now, all I'm doing is just pre-stretching along here, if that thins the metal, makes it bulge, so that when there's less metal to move when I use the bead roller to put that rib in. So I'm going to do a little bit more and then move along. I'll keep you updated. Talk to you later. Hey Dad, I got that first rib stretched, and so here's set up my bead roller. It's just cheap, works pretty well, hand operated. It's just got this T crank on here. It's about a 1/2-inch plate here, so that it's pretty stiff and it doesn't really give too much, and for little stuff like I'm doing, works pretty well. So I've got some step die pair in here. You can see that the way that this sets up is that you get an offset here that where you end up just sort of pinching your sheet metal between those two, and I've got it loose now, so I can just drop that in there. But you can sort of see how it is, and then you clamp down on that. And I use, from the point of touching, use 2 screws or 2 rotations on that set screw to put pressure on this across here. That creates the gap across here that ultimately we will use for this step bar. So here, for example, this is on my test piece, and the way that I do this is I follow the outside of the line on the top edge of the top wheel, the outer edge of the top wheel, and that gives me the profile that I need. It's about a 45-degree angle, and when it's all said and done, which is about right for what this looks like. You can see I was wandering around a little bit up here as I was adjusting turns and trying to find what the right sweet spot is for getting that rib created. So this moves a lot of metal, which is why this pre-stretching is helpful. And it makes a pretty sharp curve if you can get it even down in here, where you're kind of almost doing a 180 in a very short period of space. You can navigate that pretty well with a hand turn. They have fancier ones, of course, with motors and all the rest of that, and deeper throats, but for what I need, I think this is going to be fine. So that's sort of where I'm at. We'll see how well I can. Hopefully I don't screw up this other piece that I made, and go from there. Okay, there's my first pass. I haven't decided if I'm going to do more than one pass on each one of these ribs. You can see that it's not without any distortion, but some of that distortion curvature was there when I pre-stretched here. I mean, you put more metal on top than the bottom, so it's forced to do this distortion. But you can see it's not too bad. It's not too bad. I haven't compared it to the other one quite yet. And you can follow those lines pretty well. And I haven't gone in here and tried to touch it up a bit. Just a block of hardwood and a hammer, and I can actually fix some of these things in here and make it look pretty good. I could probably come around and sharpen some of those up, but I really think that's going to be okay. And so I think I'll just move ahead and continue working on this. This last corner here was a bit of a bear, just because of this lip here. This raised lip would interfere with the throat, and so I'd end up with, as I tried to go around that corner, it would catch on the top of this this opening here on that plate. But I think I can finish that with separately with just some hand tools. So I think that looks okay, and I'll go ahead and start stretching this one and do the same. And I think call that good enough. Not wired for good enough, but this is one of those ones where I think just some progress is going to be good enough. There's plenty of other challenges on this getting this piece right. So I'll bring you back in a little bit. Talk to you later. Oh, there you go, Dad. That's turned out a whole lot better than I thought it was for a first try at this. I was able to get around okay. Again, this curved edge here gave me some problems in these turns over here, but I could just use a square hammer, panel hammer, and basically help edge that just by hitting the top of this hammer with another hammer. I was able to actually get a reasonable edge around there, so all that looks okay. That will be absolutely good enough. There's no issue there at all. So I'll just wipe those lines off, clean that up, and then I'll start fitting this to the body pan. And there's a little bit of curvature in here, but I haven't even started trying to fit it yet. So I really don't think. I think that pre-stretching really makes the big difference, because by the time it's all said and done, you end up with a piece that's pretty straight. All I did was just take a block of hardwood a little bit and pound on it with a heavyish hammer with hardly any effort at all, and it's going to be good enough to start fitting. And so that I'm pretty happy with that. So on to the next stage. Hello there, Dad. It's after lunch. Spend a little time starting to fit this in. You can see this took a little foot-shaped piece over here. There was some heavy pitting there. I'd gone all the way through in lots of places. I've tacked in now this rib-containing piece. I'm just going to keep it all tacked in until it's all in at this point. It looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with where it is. You can see it doesn't line up exactly perfect with all these other ones, but nobody will ever be able to tell that except for me. Of course, it will bug me, but not enough that I want to go back and redo that whole piece. So that's the good enough part, I guess. So making some progress. Next, I'm going to move on to this last piece here on this corner. Of course, there's another one that'll have to go there too, but this one is mostly made. I just need to take this and extend it. Of course, now with that one there, I have to actually get that in registry with the rest of this piece rather than being all on its own. So we'll see how good of a job I do at that. But anyways, keep on going. Bye now. Hello, Dad. Sunday afternoon, just started cleaning up. My usual thing. You can see that's sort of the outcome from today's work. Sort of managed to get all these, most of these pieces sort of welded in. Here's the one that's sort of the continuing rib. These are the two ribs that I fabricated. This piece here. And then there's that little toe piece. This is the back side, bottom side, of course. I have some more rust repairs to do over here, so it's not finished there. So that seemed to go in pretty well. So here it is, flipped upside down. I guess right side up. You can see I welded it from the bottom, from the back side of this. So I just have to go in and clean some of this up. And penetration looks okay. And so there'd be just a little bit of cleanup work to get that going. You can see that continuation rib isn't perfect, but it doesn't look too bad. I think it'll be just fine. You get to put a tire in there and put it underneath the hood or underneath the boot floor. It's gonna look perfect. And nobody's gonna tell the difference. I sort of cleaned up some of these a little bit. Still got plenty to do there. Just trying to take advantage of the nicer day today. The sun was up, and so I had the garage door open. You can sort of see out there, sun shining. And so I did a little bit of grinding. So it makes such a mess in here. I don't really like doing it too very much, but I cleaned both these up, and so I'll just have to continue to do that on a little bit finer scale. But overall, this is coming along just fine. I'm pretty pleased with it. I have some more touch-up to do. There's a few pinholes in there. I haven't even started to try to address all that yet, but I need to clean it up first. My next thing, I think, after this is all done, will be to figure out what to do here. I'm going to have to make a hammer form of some kind to put this together. I have a few ideas on how to do that. We'll keep you on board anyways. So anyways, that's sort of the outcome of sort of a weekend of work. So a little bit of progress. I thought this went along okay. So I'm gonna keep on trucking. I got a busier week this week, so I probably won't get out here much. But anyways, that's it right there. I will talk to you later. Hope you had a good weekend. Bye.